Good morning and welcome to the Business Next Door. I am your host, Ben Beck with the Greenville Area Chamber of Commerce. This episode is sponsored by Reeves Information Technology. We thank them for all the work that they do to make these episodes possible. And this morning, episode 6, we have Bretton Walberg with Walberg Family Pharmacies. Thank you for being here this morning.
You're welcome, Ben. I appreciate the invitation, and we're excited to come and share a little bit about what's coming up here. We're really excited for things to come.
Great. I know that your schedule must be really busy right now. You have a grand opening tomorrow. So weather permitting, make it out there. It's on your way to Walmart. I'm sure everyone knows really who's watching right now where it's at. But it's in the plaza there. So, thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come and share. And we hope that it's beneficial for you. And we hope that the audience learns a little bit about Walberg Family Pharmacies. So why don't you tell us a little bit how you got started in the pharmacy business?
Well, as a lifelong resident of Greenville, I went to Greenville High School, and from there I went into pharmacy school. But my feet really got wet before high school. Whenever I was just a little toddler, my mom and dad, my mom is a pharmacist and my father's a school teacher, and they owned Reynolds Pharmacy. So ever since I was about knee-high to a grasshopper, I was there at the pharmacy working with my mom and dad, and my father was teaching me. I can still remember pushing big boxes of diapers, and that's back when diapers were actually in cardboard boxes, no plastic wrap or anything like that.
Okay.
And I would be responsible for making sure that all of the shelves were stocked with the basic items. And I can remember setting the shelves and my father saying, well, you gotta make sure that those are very straight, very nice and neat and orderly. From then on out, I was able to grow up in the pharmacy for the rest of my life through high school. At one point, my mom and dad owned 2 pharmacies. They owned Reynolds Pharmacy and Jamestown Pharmacy. A little bit later on, they did sell the Reynolds Pharmacy and maintained and focused primarily on the Jamestown location. So from there, I've had the ability to really have the pharmacy in my blood, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Ever since I was a little guy.
Okay. Now, since you got started, you really started out in this Jamestown pharmacy, but obviously Walberg Family Pharmacies has grown significantly since then. Tell us a little bit about that growth, where you're at today.
Certainly. Back when I graduated from pharmacy school from Ohio Northern University, I married my wife Stacy, and we bought Jamestown Pharmacy from my mom and dad in 1999.
Okay.
And that was our first store. Suddenly, fresh out of pharmacy school, a lot of experience from the previous years. Well, here we are. Stacy and I are now making the decisions that are either going to make us sink or swim. And one of the first things that we did a little remodeling of the location and decided how we could better improve traffic flow to let our patients come in and progress through the process and we're able to get out. It made us a little more efficient and made things a little bit better. About 2 years later, after we've been running Jamestown Pharmacy, we were contacted by Jim Stoffel, who owned the Herbert's Pharmacy over in Andover, Ohio, and said, Bretton, Stacy, Marnie and I, Marnie was his wife, are ready to retire. And we really like how you guys are running your business there in Jamestown. And to Stacy and I, that was a huge compliment. That somebody that's a veteran that's been doing this Jim did it for 35 years.
Wow.
And he said, what you're doing is how we like to do it, and we would really like to have you buy our pharmacy from us. And to Stacy and I, that was just one of the hugest compliments that we could ever receive. And at first I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I remember whenever mom and dad at one point had 2 pharmacies, and it was a lot of work, and mom was a pharmacist and dad would be teaching, and it was difficult to do. But after talking about it, Stacy and I decided, we're going to hire another pharmacist for Jamestown. I'm going to move to Andover and work at that location. Let's try to make it work. Let's see what we can do. So that's what we did, and sort of the rest is history. From there, that was our second location, and we sort of had our niche of small town pharmacies. So we would like to have a pharmacy in a town where there was a post office and a bank and a grocery store. If you had those 3 items and were located centrally to those, you knew that there was going to be enough traffic flow to help support you. Supporting the community and the community supporting us is very important. So we continue to look at these other areas. Our next location would have been in Kinsman.
Okay.
And then it was really ironic that almost 20 years to the date that Mom and Dad sold Reynolds Pharmacy, we bought it back from the owners that they sold it to. So from there, we just continued to expand. We created a partnership with Primary Health Network, and we became a contracted pharmacy, a 340B pharmacy for them, which allows us to dispense medications at a very low cost to patients that are on a sliding fee scale.
Okay.
Which means that we're working and helping the people that don't have a privatized insurance, but make a little bit too much to qualify for medical assistance. So there's sort of the folks that are falling in the gap, working 40 hours, but may not have good insurance, may not have prescription coverage. Well, Primary Health Network has the ability to purchase drugs very cheap, and we in turn dispense those medications and pass that savings along to the patient.
Wow, that is great.
So it was sort of a niche that we had, and from there, Primary Health Network said, hey, we're really able to help a lot of people. You guys are a key factor that are able to make the medications accessible to patients. And then they said, would you be interested in opening some other locations inside our clinics as we continue to grow? Wow. So the next batch of pharmacies, the next 5 pharmacies, were in Primary Health Network clinics.
Okay.
So we're right smack dab in the middle of the clinics, and where we have direct access to these patients, the patients that are the underserved, that we have the ability to provide medications for them as well as for the general public, because we're still a full-service retail pharmacy. But we really focused in on those people that really needed the little extra boost. So
wow.
We had one very busy year that we opened 4 pharmacies in 1 year. So paperwork galore. But it was really from a lot of support of all the people that we work with. We were able to hire excellent pharmacists and excellent technicians to help us through that process. And we grew very rapidly, almost too rapidly. It was a crazy time. But everything worked out in the end, and we continued to do that. And then we opened up a couple new ones, Lionsville about 2 years ago. And now, of course, our 11th location, Careful Pharmacy, here in Greenville, our hometown.
That is great.
So thank you.
Great. We look forward to having you in the Greenville community. Now, what else do we have to the newest thing we have is this Careful Pharmacy, great opening tomorrow, and a ribbon cutting ceremony Monday at noon. What else is there new to look forward to? What else do you have going on? I'm sure you have something.
Well, we always like to be proactive, and we try to look out at the community and see what kind of need is there. So obviously we are another pharmacy in Greenville. There are other pharmacies in Greenville, as everyone's aware of. But what we're doing is we're offering things that are a little more unique. We have a very large home medical equipment section, anything from lift chairs to scooters to rollators. We had a soft opening on Monday, and I was really surprised at the need for the home medical equipment. In the first week, I think we sold 2 transport chairs, rented a knee walker, all kinds of other aids that people were excited to have access to. And it's not that we just have one item. We've got, we have 5 different lift chairs sitting for people to look at. We have 2 different scooters. We have 4 different rollators. So we have a supply where people are able to get, a good, a better, and a best. So it's not just walking to the shelf of a big box store and seeing one item and say, oh, I guess this is what I'm going to get. We are training our staff so they can help the patient and explain the different features and why on earth is this one so expensive? Well, this is an aluminum frame. It's very lightweight. It's easy to fold up and get in your trunk. This other one is less expensive. It's steel. It's a little heavier. The wheels are a little smaller. Big wheels go over gravel and uneven terrain a little bit easier than the small wheels. So it's things like that we can reach out to these people that are suddenly thrown into a situation that they never needed to have a rollator before because they're always able to get around just fine. Unfortunately, they may have had an accident, they may have slipped, they may have injured themselves. Well, now they need something, whether it's a simple cane or a full-fledged wheelchair for someone to help them mobilize. So It's exciting. So home medical equipment, we have a big area. Another thing that we haven't done at any of our locations before is scrub uniforms. So we looked at our community and we saw that we have, of course, the hospital, all the physicians' offices, you know, the dentists and orthodontists, the nursing homes, St. Paul's and White Cliff. All of these patients, or all these employees, are in need of work uniforms. So what we did is we dedicated a portion of our showroom to smocks. So we've got slat wall and we've got all kinds of.
Oh wow. Okay.
We ordered about, I think there's about 350 different pieces, different styles that we have, different sizes and styles. But we have 40 or 50 different prints. And then we got a whole bunch of basic solids and stuff like that. And the real cool thing is that our prices can be very competitive. Matter of fact, we're having a grand opening special, 30% off of retail price. The company that we're utilizing is Cherokee, and they have a set price of what the retail locations have to do. But we got permission to have a grand opening sale, so that's going to be through the end of July. People can come in and special order. They can get what we have on the floor, or special order to exactly what they like, and still receive that discount.
So there's really a lot of variety at this Carefill Pharmacy location.
Yes, and of course all the regular over-the-counter items. You know, we've got a section of, you know, toothpaste and aspirin and cough and cold and
vitamins and
vitamins. Yes, just the basic stuff. Little baby section. We've got a great little candy counter.
Okay.
That we went and got that all set up. It was sort of a fun thing. The whole family out, my mom and dad and the boys, our children.
That is
were
great.
able to get in there and something that everybody can have fun with. So we too had our boys stocking shelves. Of course, it was a little more fun than diapers. We got to do, you know, Snickers and Three Musketeer bars. But,
so Walberg Family Pharmacies still today is very much family oriented and family focused.
That is correct. Ever since we started our business, we wanted to make sure that people had the ability to be with their families whenever important things. So when I look at our employees, it's a scenario where if your son or if your daughter or your mom or your dad are having a big day and something that's really neat and important to you, we want to make sure our employees have the ability to be with their families.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way, we look at the customers that come into our store and we try to treat them just like we would treat our own employees or our own families. But you know what? We understand that there's good times and there's stressful times, and unfortunately there are some bad times. But every one of our employees is driven to make sure that we care for and take for everybody as much as we can as a pharmacy. When someone walks in the door, we're going to say, hey, here comes Ben. Hey, Ben, how are you doing? And hopefully that we have your prescription, if you need one, ready for you when you come up to the door. We strive to know everybody by name, and we do a very good job at it. I say that people, our employees, remember hundreds of people's names.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of all of our people.
That is great, and that's something that's really unique to our small communities. And you know, I'm sure all the small communities that your pharmacies are located in, is that you know, above and beyond customer service, when it's actually a real relationship that's being built between customers and employees. And that's one of the reasons why I think I'm still in this area, is I would have a hard time going somewhere where, you know, I'm not greeted, or they don't know my order, or, you know, they don't know my usual thing that I always get. Because I just think that is so special about this area. So that's great that you're definitely going to get that at Walberg Family Pharmacies.
Yeah, we do our best, and you know, we've got a real good group of folks working at our Greenville location, as well as other locations. But we sort of handpicked these folks to give everybody a very positive experience.
Good. If you haven't already, please live tweet us, and we'll ask the questions that are live tweeted at the end. But you can live tweet us it's at Greenville Sham 1. That's Greenville CHAM 1, as in chamber, but the burr part is missing. So at Greenville Sham 1, if you live tweet us any questions for Bretton, we will ask it before the end. If not, I'm sure you can just, you know, stop by and ask them yourself. But we do appreciate anyone who's able to live tweet us. it's kind of creates a cool little dialogue outside of me and Bretton here this morning. Tell us, what are some misconceptions maybe that are associated with the pharmacy business?
One of the biggest misconceptions is that because we're a small independent group of pharmacies, that our prices are just not going to be that of what the big box stores are. That is the biggest misconception. With the Affordable Care Act and everybody supposed to having some type of insurance, oftentimes you would go in and you would pay a $10 copay. And that copay is the same no matter where you go. Whether you go to a big box store or you come to our location, we process the same insurance, everything is done the same way, and copay comes back $10. Well, somebody say, well, I don't have that insurance card and I don't have that luxury of having that $10 copay. I have to pay regular price. With 11 locations, we do have some ability to power buy, to buy in large quantities that gives us the better price. So there's not a price out there that we can't match. And I say that even if it's something that I would lose money on and somebody else is offering that price, that is something that we will offer to the patient. Another thing it's a good example of is how we can be competitive is our free medications. We have a select list of diabetic medications as well as some blood pressure medications that are absolutely free.
Wow.
And I know, Ben, free, how can that be? Bretton, you get
nothing's
free. Well, these actually are. You know, these are medications that are very commonly taken. They are inexpensive for me to buy. But you know what? They're $4 medications. If you're taking one of those medications and you're on a fixed income, if I can save you $4 every month by the end of the year, $48, Ben. So that's a considerable savings. Yeah. And oftentimes people take one or maybe even two of those medications, so suddenly we're up to $100 savings. And oftentimes people are on fixed incomes, and somebody might say, oh, it's only $4, just, you know, they just need to charge that. You know, just pay the $4 and be on with it. But we look at it more as a way to give back to the community. That, you know, at one point we looked at the number of free prescriptions that we gave across all of our stores. Yeah. And the number was a very, very large number that we gave back to the community.
Wow.
It was, you know, I can't remember exactly what the number, but it was tens of thousands of dollars that we gave back.
So really, you are competing at the same level as some of the bigger ones, where people maybe think because they are, you know, that big box, more corporate, but really you're competing at the same level with them when it comes to competitive prices and all of that.
That is correct. Now there is one thing that we're seeing coming out in the market. Some of these insurance companies are creating what are called preferred networks. And sometimes they do go to the big box stores and say, hey, we will charge the patient a lower copay if you sign up this contract, and you will be the exclusive pharmacy that can get that lower copay. Lower copay might equate to $3 or $4 per prescription, and I certainly understand that sometimes that is a savings that people have to take into account and have to take advantage of. But we oftentimes hear people come and say, you know what, it was cheaper there, but it took me 2 hours to get in and out of there. Your personal service is well worth that couple bucks extra, because we know we can come into your store 10, 15 minutes, we can be in and out and have our medication, and you know who we are. Yes. And you really care about us. There's not a different pharmacist there on, 5 days a week because they're trying to get somebody to fill in. Our pharmacists are there to serve and to learn, and learn who the people are.
That's
so just in the current times, they're negotiating these contracts. But for the difference, most people find out that our local independent pharmacies are definitely the way to go. Well worth a couple extra dollars.
That's great.
Fortunately, they're far and few between, but there are a couple.
Now, Carefil, the Greenville, the pharmacy that's located in Greenville is called the Carefil Pharmacy. Tell us briefly about the success of Carefil, and for those who've never heard of it, what is Carefil?
Well, Carefil is our custom medication packaging program where we take the prescriptions that you're taking. Oftentimes, as the seniors get older, and even folks our age, sometimes with different disease states, have a very complex medication regimen. They might take 8 medications, they might 10. We have some people that take in the 20s of different types of medications.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine trying to sit down with 20 different bottles? Half of them are white and round, and making sure that you filled them correctly. Oftentimes people do a very good job with their pill boxes and are able to sort their medications by themselves, morning, afternoon, evening, and bedtime. And bottle by bottle, week by week, they go through and do that program and do that process. It might take them an hour, it might take them 2 hours every week to go through and do that. Well, our CareFill program was originated at our Jamestown pharmacy location. And with us growing our program and being, what I like to say, very successful, helping a lot of people out there, we've actually run out of room at our Jamestown location.
Wow.
So hence we're coming into our CareFill location, which is about 5,000 square feet. And the back 2/3 of that building is going to be dedicated to our CareFill strip packaging, custom medication packaging program.
Okay.
And the program is sort of neat. What we do is, in essence, we say, you don't need those crazy pill boxes any longer. What we're going to do is we're going to custom package those medications in strips. So you're going to have an entire month of medication separated by day, dose, and time that you're taking it. So most people take their medications, breakfast, lunch, supper, and bedtime. So we have the ability, we have a piece of equipment. We actually have 3 robots that package the medications for the patient. It actually prints the patient's name, the day that they're taking it, the date that they're taking it, as well as the time. We can either have it say morning, afternoon, evening, or bedtime, or we can actually put a time on it. Some people are like, well, I take that medication at 9. And the thing about our program is custom medication. If we looked at one of their pill boxes that they had filled up, and if they took the white one, the green one, the yellow one, the blue one in the morning, we want to make sure that in their morning packet, which is a clear cellophane packet, that they can see the pills without having to root around inside that little square. Well, I think that little white one's in here. It's clearly displayed in that packet. It's clear. They can flip it over on both sides. One side has all the information on it. It will give them the drug, the instructions how to take it, who the doctor is, and it even gives a pill inscription. So if they're like, well, I can't remember what that yellow one is, well, if they look below on the fine print, it is small, I will admit, but with a magnifying glass or a caregiver, they'll definitely be able to figure out which pills are which medications.
Wow.
And what they're for. So we package those medications exactly how they want. If they say, Bretton, this one medication is Fosamax, and a doctor said I have to take it the first thing as I get up in the morning, I'm not allowed to lie down, I have to drink with a full glass of water, well, that's absolutely correct. And we're going to package that one little pill by itself in its baggie with a very early morning label on it. So that's a once a week medication. So whatever day the patient tells us, we're going to have another baggie in there with that Fosamax that they just know that robot automatically sorted it and organized it for them.
Wow.
And
so it's totally customizable, very high tech, and leading as far as like within your industry. This is something that is sort of paving the way of how it's supposed to be done.
That is correct. What we're doing is we're trying to keep people independent longer. By keeping these patients out of the nursing home, they are going to have a better quality of life. Not that the nursing homes or assisted livings aren't good quality of life, but who doesn't want to stay in their home? Mm-hmm. The biggest reason that people are going into assisted living or into nursing homes is because of medication mismanagement. I forget the statistics, something around 54% of the hospitalizations are because people took too much medication or didn't take their medication, resulting in that. This process and this program is going to allow people to take their medications, simply pull the strip out, read today's date in the morning, open the packet, and take their medications.
Okay.
So when you talked about customizing, the very first step, if somebody says, hey, Bretton, we want to sign up for your CareFill program, is we have a pharmacist, probably Emily or Tracy, that are going to do a comprehensive medication review, a CMR. That's a big buzzword right now. But we want to make sure that the patient is taking the medications that are prescribed, that there's not any duplicate therapies, that there's not any drug interactions. And a big thing now is high-risk medications. As our senior populations get older, there are a certain list of medications that are known to cause people to be a little bit dizzy or unstable and increase their risk for a fall. So we go over that list with them to make sure that, one, there's no interactions, no duplicative therapies, and there's no high-risk medications. If there are a problem or a medication that our pharmacists think that there may be a concern, at that point we talk to the patient about it and get permission to talk to the physician directly for them. So we're really looking out for them.
Wow. This could be life-saving for some people, I'm sure.
Well, some of the testimonies that we have from people, I just had a gentleman come into the Careful Pharmacy and said, my mom and dad are both on your program, and what a blessing you have been. My father was having such a difficult time, and he got on their Careful, and what an improvement he had. He no longer had to worry about it, so it was it's a mental thing. He was always concerned about how his medications were going to get in his box and who was going to take care of them.
Wow.
And that's just something that we take complete care for them. You know,
that's awesome.
So
that's great.
It's really fun. You know,
Yeah.
you can shut me up anytime, but
No,
I
no.
can.
Well, and even the extra step of having a pharmacist sort of go through and verify and be able to. A lot of times, patients, you know, you sort of could glaze over as they're talking about, you know, the names of the pills and what they do, and a lot of times maybe customers are not even comfortable receiving that information because they don't understand everything clearly, and to have a pharmacist to go through that and to verify that there aren't going to be any complications, you know, that's valuable.
Well, thank you.
Certainly valuable.
One of the things we look at also is we see sometimes the patient lives in Greenville, but they have a doctor down in the valley, down in Hermitage. Well, as they're coming back, you know they got a prescription. Well, they're just going to stop at the closest pharmacy on their way home, and they get that medication. So now we have a patient who normally gets their medications in Greenville, now has one active in a pharmacy down in the valley, and we call it polypharmacy. And it's very difficult for any of those pharmacies to know what the other medications are that patient's taking. It's very, very difficult to do a medication review or a drug utilization review, make sure there's not any interactions. So if I can stress to anybody, whether they choose to come to Careful and Walberg Family Pharmacies or to another pharmacy, is to pick one pharmacy and really stick with it. The polypharmacy idea of wherever you can get it the cheapest, that's really
dangerous.
Very dangerous, very
Wow.
dangerous. At our location, we match the price of anybody. So if you're able to get something down in Sharon cheaper than you can get at our store, please tell us. We'll match that price, because that is how important it is. If we don't know what you're taking, we can't take care of you.
Wow.
So
What sets apart, and there are, I'm sure, many things that you talked about today, you could use as an example, but what would you say sets Walberg Family Pharmacies apart from other pharmacies in the area?
Well, I think one of the neatest things that we have is I'm sort of a very technological guy. I guess I'm sort of a geeky guy, but we're very reliant and we're very involved with the technology. Our locations, we do as much robotic activity as we can. 7 of our locations have actual maxes that count the medications for the patient, put them in a vial, put a label on it, and cap it. And it's all done automatically. So there's no human interaction and intervention and potential for error. These are all done by barcode scanning and verification and double verification. So a lot of the medications, the top 200 medications from these locations, are getting actually filled by a piece of equipment that is truly more accurate than a human.
Wow.
And the other thing with our Careful, one of the neat things is there are other patient compliancy programs out there, but the neatest thing about our Careful, not the neatest thing, but one of the great attributes is we have a program, another piece of equipment, another robot, that takes a picture, a high-speed picture. It takes a color and a black and white photo of each individual baggie through clear cellophane, so it has a record of what those medications are, and it also does what's called pill recognition. It actually tells us if there is a wrong pill inside that clear packet. So at any time along the way, it will kick out a report and say, hey, this medication, there was a questionable. You know, sometimes it's not 100% accurate. It's always tells you there's something wrong, maybe if there really isn't. So there's more false positives than that. So there's really not anything wrong, but it says, hey, that pill we couldn't quite see for sure. Somebody better take a special look at this. So we have our technicians that go through that file. They process it through the check pass. It checks all the prescriptions, takes the pictures, like I said, does the pill verification. If there's a wrong medication, it'll put a red X over it, or a medication that's in question. So at that point, then a technician goes back and finds that little baggie number and verifies that it is in fact correct. Another neat thing about that is once we ship the medications out to the patient, and a patient has a question, how Bretton, this one pill on Monday, whatever date, in my evening baggie doesn't look right to me. Well, we have the ability as pharmacists to go back into that database, pull up that strip that we took pictures of, and we can review exactly what is in that packet. And we can talk to that patient one-on-one and say, hey, look.
Looking at the same thing.
Well, I think, Mrs. Smith, if you look at, you should have a white one, a green one, and a yellow one, and then another white one. If you look at those medications closely, we think that they're all there in our picture. You know, take a look again. And oftentimes what happens is, somebody didn't see it, or a pill got tucked behind another one and they weren't able to see it. But that is, to us, the most valuable thing, is that not only are we just giving you compliancy, but we're giving you compliancy with the way to come back and check.
Wow.
Some of the other programs that are out there don't have that. Once it leaves the pharmacy, you know what, we really just hope that there aren't any errors. And I'm sure most of the time there's not any errors, but the thing that makes me feel so safe and so excited about my product that I can ensure accuracy is that we can go back and look and answer any questions that the patient may have.
There's another level of assurance there for everyone.
And then, of course, our pharmacist goes through every baggie and we do a comparison. So we check to make sure the one's right with exactly, and then we loop it through and we compare baggie with baggie like 2 days in a row. So if there's 3 pills in a packet, there better be 3 pills in the packet. And it's sort of hard to explain. If I had my strips, I'd show you, but it's the way the pharmacists do the check. And so, of course, in Pennsylvania, we have to have a pharmacist, and a pharmacist looks at every single baggie of every single patient.
Wow.
So there we have our third and final check.
Wow.
So
there's quite a process involved.
Very exciting.
What 2 words, we always ask this, what 2 words sum up doing business in Greenville for you?
Well, I guess what I would say is community support. We can look at it as community support or support the community. As we are opening our new location, we're very excited. We have all kinds of people that are coming into our store and saying that they're glad that we're here and welcome to town. It's about time Walberg's got a pharmacy in here. You live in this town, for goodness sake. So as the communities support us and as we continue to grow our business, we are so excited to be able to flip that around and support the community.
Awesome.
Stacy and I are very big believers that, you know what, we're not successful because of Stacy and I. We're successful because of our employees as well as the communities that support us. And we're very excited to be able to give back, sort of like the softball game last year with the Steelers. Hopefully it was a fun event for the community. I know that our employees and some of the community that got to play, the kids that got to come in and play with the Steelers, what a fun thing.
Yeah.
And that generated so much money that we were able to give back to the local charities. And that is our goal as we expand, just to continue being able to give back to the communities, support the communities as the communities support us.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to check Twitter really quick for us to see if anybody sent out a tweet. It doesn't look like it, so Greenville, get on Twitter. But thank you again so much for joining us today. Just as a reminder, visit the Carefill Pharmacy that's grand opening tomorrow, Saturday. And then there's also going to be a ribbon cutting ceremony on Monday at noon. So if you can make it out to both of those things, I'm sure the Walbergs would love to have you there. And come check out what's new in Greenville. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Ben.